Hello and welcome. Welcome to my bed. I feel like usually when I'm in my book corner, I'm like, welcome to Kara's book corner, welcome to Kara's bed.
3, 2, 1.
Today I want to talk about my running journey, and yes, if you're wondering, as I coordinate my shirts to my book videos, I was like, you know what? I'll coordinate my shirt to this video as well. So this is the swag that I got from the half marathon that I did, the one and only, and we'll get into that. This is that shirt. It was the Brew City half marathon. This is the first time in my life that I have actually worn the shirt, and I did my half marathon like almost a year ago at this point. This video, I'm going to be talking about my running journey. I liked these videos when I first started running, and I still like watching them. Maybe this will serve as some motivation or some source of entertainment for you. If you're watching this and you're thinking about maybe starting to run or you just started running, I feel like maybe you'll be able to relate to some of my story. I'm going to leave timestamps below, so if you want to just jump around to parts of the video that interest you the most, feel free. If you want to watch the whole thing and learn how I struggled to run and still currently struggle to run, that's fine too. This isn't going to be like a very chit-chatty type video, so feel free to listen to this like it's a podcast or something and go do something else. So I'm going to get right into it because I am prone to ramble. I have some structure, maybe. I'm going to start with my running journey and how I actually started to run. And if you told me 5 years ago that I would have run a half marathon before I turned 25, I would have told you you are out of your goddamn mind. Because truly when I say this, before I started running, I did not run a mile. I did not run. I did not even walk. I merely existed in this world. Me walking from building to building in college was the most cardio you will ever have caught me doing. I say this not as like a self-deprecation, but I just want to give you a realistic point of where I started. Genuinely, when I was in elementary school, and this is a core memory for no apparent reason, when I was in elementary school, I remember distinctly we had to run the mile to see how fast we could do it. In my elementary school, you had to run 5 laps for it to be a mile. I was the dead last person, but not only was I the dead last person, I skipped the last lap and I still was the last person. There were only 2 people left, and when the second to last person finished, I still had 1 lap to go, but no one was counting, so I was like, I'm done. I literally skipped the last lap and still was dead last. That was my canon event. I don't know what canon event means. I don't know if I'm using that right. I literally remember that moment and I was like, wow, I'm never running ever in my life. And look at me now. That is the epitome of me as a runner. When I did sports or gym in like high school, I didn't run. I would avoid literally any time I had to run. Coach said run some laps. I said my shoe is untied for 20 minutes. My ankle hurts. Sorry, I actually have something to do in the bathroom for 20 minutes. Oh, we're done running now? Okay, I'm good. That was me. I was the person where literally my whole family, they didn't believe that I ran a half marathon when I told them. So when I say that I didn't run, I genuinely mean I did not run. Cardio, working out, exercising was not for me. And then 2020 hit. And 2020 was the year I graduated college. So I had a bunch of post-grad plans where I was like, I'm gonna travel, I'm gonna start work, and like, I'm gonna do this and that. And once the lockdown hit, I fell into just like a bunch of self-pity and just like wallowing in being like, wow, my life sucks. I can't travel. I can't do anything that I wanted to do. I don't know if I have a job, blah, 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 blah. And then like one day I literally just got so tired of feeling bad for myself that I was like, okay, you can't control any of that. You can't control whether or not you can travel at this point. You can't control when you're going to start your job. You can't control a lot of things in life. Like I was talking to myself and I was just like, what I can control is what I'm doing with myself. So that's when I started to get into my fitness journey, my running journey. I told myself my goal was to run a mile. When I first started out, I could run maybe 10 seconds without being like, oh, I'm dying now. It was absolute pain when I first started it. And I was like, who does this? What kind of human subjects themselves to this kind of pain voluntarily? I still feel that when I run sometimes. I started like running 10 seconds and then walking, and then 20 seconds and then walking, and then 30 seconds and then walking. When I was able to start running for multiple minutes without stopping, I was proud of myself. Because if I compared myself to the point where I first started, where I was like literally running maybe 20 seconds, feeling like I was going to combust, to running a minute or 2 minutes and still kind of feeling like I was going to combust, being able to actually achieve the things that I told myself I was going to do, it was very good for building my confidence. I've always told myself when I was growing up, and like I've always been told that I am not a runner. My brother got all of the athletic genes in my family, and I got all of the anxiety genes, I guess. I don't know. So like growing up, he was the athletic one. I was the nerdy one. It was changing a lot of my self-beliefs of I'm not a runner. To this day, I honestly don't think I would call myself a runner, even though I run. And that's something that I still am dealing with. To me, what actually constitutes a runner. And like, if you run, you're a runner. You could run for 10 seconds, you're a runner. I know that logically, but if you ask me, I wouldn't say that I'm a runner. I say that I run, but I wouldn't say that I'm a runner. But like when I first started running, it was really because I was like, I couldn't control much, but something I couldn't control was my health. That was something that really kept me going. I wanted to see just how far I could push myself. Let me see if I can find my journal. Oh, I should have done this before I started recording. I do this every time. Okay, here we go. August 11th, 2020. I don't actually remember when I first started running, but maybe a couple of months before this. The first line of my journal was, today I did something that I don't think I would ever even think to say, but I ran/jogged my first mile. This might not sound like much to most people, but for me, that's a big accomplishment. I've never been a runner. I've never even tried to run. But now I can run a mile without stopping. And I remember being so proud of myself after running my first mile, because that's something that I honestly never thought that I would be able to do. And then I did it. I feel like that's what keeps me motivated to run. Every time I hit a new mileage or a new speed when I'm running, it's always just like, wow, I actually did that. And for someone who never thought that they would be able to do anything close to that, it feels good. That was me in 2020. After I ran my first mile, I feel like I just ran for fun. I ran because I enjoyed it. And especially in COVID, I ran because I couldn't really do much else. I honestly think running helps me clear my head a lot. When I run, I feel like I'm really just focused on my suffering and like the music I'm listening to, the sights that I'm seeing, that I can't really focus on anything else. So it helps me stay present, helps me live in the moment. It's some form of therapy for me. 2020, I ran my first mile. Then I slowly started building up my mileage. I focused on endurance and mileage more than I focused on speed, because I am like 5'1", 5'2" on a good day. I always say this too. I'm like, running fast is harder for shorter people because our stride length is shorter. I'm not a fast person. That's fine with me. I'm here more for endurance than I am for speed. Like, I'm not going to win any races. 2021, it was just me building up my base mileage. I think towards the end of 2021, I was like, do I want to do a half marathon? Because one of my cousins did a half marathon around that time. And I was like, I never even considered it because like I said, I never thought that I was going to be able to run a single mile, much less 13 of them. So I was like, okay, maybe I will try to train for a half marathon. I trained because I was anxious about never having done any races or like knowing how a race works. So I signed up for a 10K in 2022. And that was my first race ever. My intention behind signing up for that was, it was relatively close to where I lived, so it didn't require much travel. It was flat. Little to no elevation is one of my requirements when I am running and when I'm looking for a race, because I hate hills. Hills make me feel like the suffering that I'm doing is actually going to kill me. I did my first 10K, and then after that, I feel like I got the rush of adrenaline that I needed and the rush of dopamine that I needed from that I was like incredibly unmotivated to continue training for a half. And then like I reached some mental blocks where I mentally didn't believe that I could run over like 7 or 8 miles. So that's where I just like plateaued. It was a mental game for me to push myself to run more. Like after I ran my 10K, I was like, I can't do this. Can't run more than 4 miles without feeling like I'm dying. Then I went back to basics. I don't want to burn myself out. I'm just going to go back to what I did before and just run for fun. Because at that point, I was maybe running like 4 or 5 times a week. That was honestly too much for me. And I didn't realize it at that point because I was like, oh, if I want to train for a half marathon, everyone who's training for any type of half marathon or marathon is running 5 times a week. I didn't take into account that it just wasn't sustainable for me to run 5 times a week. And I didn't realize that until I did it. And I was like, wow, I actually kind of hate this. I went back to basics, maybe ran like 1 to 3 times a week on average during that time frame after my 10K. I ran for fun. I ran only when I felt like it. I didn't push myself if I didn't want to run. And then I was like, screw it. I'm not going to do a half marathon this year. I focused on myself. By focus on myself, I meant like I focused on my mental health. I focused on eating right. I focused on non-running activities. So I worked out with more resistance training and more weightlifting than I did with more cardio-based exercises. Took a step back from running. A couple months later, I was like, I kind of miss running. Because like I said, like for me, I think the main benefits that I gain from running is that it really helps me mentally. If I'm feeling anxious about something or I have a lot of things that are running through my brain, I'm like, I'm just gonna go for a quick little run. Every time after I run, I feel a lot better. Maybe fall of 2022, I was like, okay, maybe it's time to think about training for a half marathon again. And this time I'm going to actually apply some of the things that I learned from training for my last half marathon. And then that's exactly what I did. So I ran maybe 3 times a week, which is sustainable for me. I did 1 speed run, 1 recovery run, and then 1 long run a week. It was enough for me to actually build my mileage, but not too much where I was like, I feel burned out from running. I don't like it anymore. And I gave myself a lot more leeway and a lot more time and grace to build up my mileage. I think minimum time, they say, to train for a half marathon, I think is like 12 weeks. I gave myself like a lot more than that because I was like, I know life happens. If I don't hit my mileage, then I'll just do it the next week. Because I'm incredibly type A, I made a plan of like, I'm just gonna build in extra weeks here and there so I can not have to like continuously build my mileage. I use, and I currently do, the Nike Run Club app, and they have a half marathon training plan, and that's the training plan that I use, but I adapted that into 3 runs a week, and I also changed it so I added more weeks and more time in between. A week before my half marathon, got injured. You can watch that whole saga in my vlogs if you really want to. Still ran my half because my doctor said, there's nothing actually wrong with you. Gaslighting me. It's fine. I'm kidding. They're like, there's nothing wrong with your bones. So like, as long as your body doesn't feel like it's gonna die, go ahead. And I was like, you're so funny. My leg actually does feel like it's gonna die, but I'm gonna do it anyway. So I ran my half. After that, did not run. Stopped running for a while. And then like when I started to run again, I couldn't run more than 2 miles without mentally feeling like I was going to give out. Again, I think a lot of my running has to do with my mental state. I logically knew at the point after my half marathon I could run more than 2 miles. When I actually tried to do it, I mentally was like, no, you can't actually. And because a lot of running is mental and believing that you can do it, because I didn't believe that I could, I didn't. Fast forward almost a full year. I did a 5K a couple weeks ago, and that was the longest that I have run in a while since my half. So at this point, I have run a 5K, a 10K, and a half marathon. So 3, 6, 13 miles. And I will say, I think the 10K is my favorite race length because it's long enough where I can actually get into the groove of running, but it's short enough where I don't feel like I'm actually gonna deteriorate my body. I guess that's my running journey up until this point, and that was really long. I'm gonna tie in what motivates me to run and what benefits I've seen from running. So what motivates me to run? Like I said, when I first started, it was an internal dialogue of me being like, commit to something, prove to yourself that you can do it if you put your mind to it. And for me now, it's a little bit of the same, honestly, because I'm having a hard time running more, running longer, running faster. A lot of the like, just prove to yourself that you can do it type thing. As psychotic as it is, I kind of think it's fun. Like I mentioned throughout the video, the main benefit that I see from running is mental clarity. I can tell that if I haven't run in a while, that I feel a little more anxious than I typically do. And a lot of it is like building confidence and doing something that I tell myself I'm gonna do. There are days, yes, where I say like, I'm gonna go out and run. And then I wake up and I'm like, no, I don't think I wanna do that actually. And that's fine. But I mean like, if I say, okay, today we're running 2 miles and I do the 2 miles, I'm like, I did do those 2 miles, didn't I? And it's like little things like that where I tell myself I'm gonna do something and I do it. I do believe in giving yourself grace. I tell myself I'm gonna run 4 miles, and then at 3 miles, I'm like, no, like something doesn't feel right. Something doesn't feel right, and it's fine. I think setting an intention and being able to achieve that is something that I like to get from running. Setting achievable goals. Eating right. Doing things outside of running, having balance, that kind of thing is also important. Also, I just want to say that I am not a running coach. I am not a fitness expert. I have no certifications whatsoever. I am just a random girl on the internet talking about running. So do not take anything that I say as fact. Take it as merely an opinion at most. I am just a random person on the internet. I will say that even though I can run multiple miles at this point, I still get winded from like walking up a hill. So in terms of like fitness level, I don't really know the benefit of running, for me at least. But definitely it has improved my fitness. I didn't start running because I had an aesthetic goal in mind. I started running more for a mental goal. And I don't think my body has changed much since I started running. So I feel like every day that I do run, I eat like someone who has not eaten in a week. I just eat everything in sight, especially when I was training for my half marathon. After my long runs, I would come home, eat a whole pizza, and then an hour later be like, I'm hungry, I want some snacks. And then some of the races that I've done, I'll talk you through my thought process of choosing the race that I did. Like I said, blanket statement, I don't like hills. So I choose flat races. And then I choose my races based on the swag that I get. Not specifically this one. I chose this half because my brother was going to run it with me and I had to choose one in his city. I did this one and it was relatively flat. But other than that, I choose a lot of my races based on swag. My 10K, I really like the medal, so I did that. It was a women's run close to Mother's Day, so I was like, okay, this one's cute. And then like the medal had flowers and I was like, oh, these are adorable. And then my half marathon, like I said, I chose it because my brother, and my 5K, I chose that because it was a hot chocolate run. I love chocolate, so that was an easy sell for me. And I was like, I just want to do a race. I don't care what length it is, and I don't think I could have done a 10K at that point. So I was like, a 5K, it is. My general thoughts on running, like I mentioned at the beginning of the video, I still wouldn't consider myself a runner. And I don't know why I still have that dialogue in my mind. Even though I run, I feel like because growing up, I have never identified as a runner, I still find it hard to identify as a runner. I'm not a fast runner. When I say I'm not a fast runner, I truly mean it. I don't want to throw any paces out there because I feel like for me, a lot of times when I see people say that they're a slow runner and they say their speed, and then it's faster than the speed that I run, I'm like, wow. So I guess I really suck. And I just don't want that for anybody watching my video, so I'm just not going to say my times. I would classify myself as a slow runner, which is part of the reason why I don't really see myself as a runner, because to me, I'm like, oh, running, you have to be fast, you have to be speedy and nimble. I am not speedy. I'm here for the vibes. Like I said, I know it doesn't make sense. I know that if I run, and if anyone runs, they are a runner. It doesn't matter what speed they're going. It doesn't matter if it's a little bit faster than a walk. They're running and they are a runner. And I really do see running now more than ever a mental game, because physically I know I can run for a good amount of time because I don't mentally think I can do it. My body believes it. And it's like, you don't think you can run 3 miles? You probably can't. You're probably right. But if I told myself like I can run this 3 miles, I probably could. It's just a pure game. And that's what sucks. You know what I mean? As someone who has low self-esteem, it's like, why do I do this to myself? If I just believed I could, I probably could, but I don't believe that I could, so I can't. My life's a joke. This got really off topic really quickly. So the next thing I want to talk about is what I recommend for someone who is beginning to run. And as someone who, like I mentioned at the beginning of the video, couldn't run more than 20 seconds without being like, ooh, that doesn't feel fun. Who does that? But as someone who didn't run at all prior to starting to run, here's my advice. Again, please remember I am just a random person on the internet and here's what's just worked for me. But 1, start slow. And when I mean slow, I mean like if you were starting from 0 like I did, I just went a couple walks a couple times a week, called it a day, started from there. It was easier for me to start with counting by time and not counting by miles, because I feel like it was very demoralizing to be like, oh my gosh, I suffered so much and I'm only 0.1 miles in. Counting it for like seconds was a lot easier for me. I run 30 seconds and then I take a break. And that's how I started. Start slow. Maybe you run for 20 seconds and you walk for a minute. Then you run for another 20 and you keep repeating that until you run however long you want to. And then you slowly increase from there. So maybe you run like 30 seconds with a minute break. And then maybe you run 40 with a minute. And then you just toy around with what works for you. Like I said, I use the Nike Run Club app and I love that app. Or the guided runs, if you like people talking to you and you need that motivation, it was very helpful when I first started running. It kind of felt like I had someone next to me running alongside me and made me feel like I was less in my head. If you're more extroverted than I am, perhaps join a running club, perhaps find a buddy to run with. Personally, I can't hold a conversation while running, so I don't want that. I also don't like running with other people. If you're new to running, figure out your why. For me, whenever I started questioning why I was doing what I was doing, I always went back to the reason why I started in the first place, and that was because it's something that I can control. I want to be able to do the things that I tell myself I'm going to be able to do, and like I'm doing it for me. Your reasoning could be whatever you want it to be. For me, that was mine. When times get tough and you need motivation, figuring out your why is really helpful. Some runners have mantras where they're in a run and it gets tough. They just repeat the mantra to themselves. Some examples is just like one foot in front of the other, that kind of thing. Sometimes when I am in a run and I'm like, I have 20 minutes left, I'm like, that is just 4 or 5 minutes or 10 2-minute sections, and you can run for 2 minutes, and every 2 minutes I'd just be like, you can run for another 2 minutes. Doing that, where you just kind of trick yourself into thinking the run's a lot shorter than it's going to be. But I do like the Nike Run Club app because the guided runs, they were something to get my mind off of actually the fact that I'm running. Some people don't like that. Like my brother tried it and he was like, this is stupid. I don't know what he listens to, but I am solely a music gal when I'm running. Sometimes if I'm doing a guided run, then I will listen to that. I am not a podcast person. I tried podcasts. If I get bored during the podcast, then I focus more on the fact that I'm running, and I don't like that. As of now, I do not think I am a no audio type of runner. I want to try that, but I don't think I want to hear myself heavy breathing. For someone starting out running, my biggest tip is just like start slow. Something that the Nike Run Club app guided runs say is like start so slow that you're annoyed that you're going that slow. And that's exactly what I do. Every run that I start, I always start slow to the point where I'm like, wow, I am annoyed at myself for being this slow. And then like you slowly pick it up throughout the run. A big thing that I learned from running is that I can only compare myself to me, and everyone else is on their own journey. For example, when I first started running, I was like, wow, that person who is 80 years old just sped right past me. And I was like, I suck at this, actually. After they passed me, I'd feel bad about myself. Because I'm like, oh, they're that age and they can pass me very easily. But then I would think to myself, dude, you don't know their life. They could have been a runner since they were 20. Like at that point, it was like I was still new to running. I was just starting my running journey. And even now, if I see someone who's a lot older than me pass me, I'm like, good for them. Because they're working on themselves, they're bettering themselves, they're just living their life, and there's no reason why I should feel bad about myself because of something that someone else did better than me. Like, I should be cheering others on, and I shouldn't be feeling bad about myself. Everyone's on their own journey. As long as I'm improving compared to myself, that's all that really should matter to me. And that's a lot of what I've learned through running, is that everyone is on their own journey. You don't know anyone else's life. Like, you could see someone you run past, maybe they just started running again. It doesn't really matter. Anyone else's journey doesn't really matter when it comes to your own. It's not a competition. I mean, if you're in a race, it kind of is, but like, in general, it's not a competition. We're just all living life on this floating rock in this universe. Just have fun and don't compare yourself to others. The last thing I have on my agenda to talk about today is what's next. So you might be wondering, like, okay, you've done a half, you've done a 10K, you've done a 5K. Are you going to do a full marathon? My answer to that is maybe, but not right now. Because I've actually been considering more whether or not I actually want to do a full marathon. And as of right now, I don't think I want to train for that. I just want to exist and have fun running. But I do think that maybe in a year or so, I'll start considering it more if I am still running as much as I do. After a marathon, I'm done. I will continue running, but I am not gonna do like an ultra or like whatever the next one is. Like I said, I think a 10K is my favorite length. I might sign up for another 10K. Probably not anytime within the next couple of months. Either like fall or next year. But right now, I feel like my running goals is I kind of do want to work on my speed. Not for like, I want to be like super fast. I just want to get a little faster because I feel like that will help my endurance. And it's kind of like a chicken and egg situation where like if I work on my endurance, then I'll naturally get faster. If I work on my speed, I'll probably increase my endurance. The way I'm doing that is pretty relaxed, where I will do some speed runs sometimes. I am working on mainly building my aerobic base again. I am just running for fun. I'm running a couple times a week. I don't feel bad about myself if I tell myself I'm going on a run and I just end up not going. I want to continue to enjoy the sport and not burn out from it. I also want to reduce injury Because like I said, when I was training for my half, I literally thought my leg was going to snap and or my muscle was going to pull away from my bone. And I did not like that feeling. And I went to the doctor recently before I started running again, and I said, "Doctor, what's wrong with my leg?" And my doctor said, "Nothing. I don't know why you're feeling this pain." And I said, "Am I gaslighting myself into feeling this pain? Perhaps." And then I started running again and I felt the pain and I was like, love that. Anyway, I want to start building up my mileage again. Right now I am, like I mentioned, I ran a 5K a couple weeks ago. So I'm at 3 miles. I want to build my mileage for fun and to prove to myself that I can do it and I can do it consistently. A lot of the times when I was training, I'd build my mileage after my race, done. And I want to keep my mileage consistently high. And I feel like once I can do that, then I'll actually consider running a marathon, because I feel like to run a marathon, the base mileage really has to be there. At this point in my life, just the conceptual thought of running for like 4, 5, 6 hours just sounds not fun to me. I can barely schedule 2 hours for myself in a week to just like do whatever I want. And the amount of time and discipline it'll take to actually train for a marathon is not one that I currently have right now, when I am just living my life as a silly 20-something. That's that on that. I hope that this was helpful. I know there was a lot of rambling and a lot of me jumping around, but I hope that you found it somewhat entertaining. Maybe it motivated you to go on a walk, or perhaps a little jog, or perhaps a little run. Either way, thank you so much for watching this video. I really appreciate your time, and I really appreciate you watching this. If you want to and you haven't already, feel free to give this video a like, comment, and subscribe, and I will see you in the next one. Bye! If you have any questions or want to know anything I didn't talk about, feel free to leave them in the comments below. Maybe I'll make a follow-up video, maybe I won't, and I will just respond to your comment. Life is unpredictable. I need to work on my posture! Today I did something that I don't think I would ever be able to say. Ooh, no. Today I did something that I don't think I would ever be even think. Oh my god, I can't read out loud. Oh, Jesus. Wow, a bald eagle! Lots of bald eagles! That's why I love my city, dude. Sometimes it's just like nature's right in front of you like that.